There's a playlist on this channel called Globku vs. Mobile Games, where I try to play some different anime games that came out on mobile. And typically, they're gachas, because gachas are successful, they make a lot of money, and generally are cheaper to make than other video games. Overall, if you watch that playlist, you will see me not having a great time, often trying to give a game my best shot and coming out of the other end disappointed. But this game is different. Fullmetal Alchemist Mobile, my new favorite mobile game, has finally come out, but only in Japan, and there's no sign of a global release. While that might sound like a bit of a bummer, it's actually a bit of a bummer. No, we got it right the first time. But I've been obsessing about this game ever since I played the beta, that I'm just so happy that it's finally here. This is one of those rare times that I actually enjoy a mobile game, a gacha on top of that I wonder, what is it about this one specifically? Why am I vibing with this so hard when I've tried so many gacha in the past that I just didn't enjoy? I do want to talk a bit more in depth about this game later, maybe even give you a review, but for now, this is my day one experience. My main focus was checking what was so different from the beta, which already felt kinda like a complete product. I played that beta for almost a week, and I didn't just play it casually, that was my main game during that week. Gacha games are usually not built to be played like that, and I binge played the hell out of it. That's because this game allowed me to do that, because even though it has a stamina system and a ton of gacha RPG mechanics, like farming a ton of materials to level up, which is kinda stamina intensive, it was also very good at giving me free stamina refills, so I never had to stop playing. It was actually suspicious how generous this game was, not only with stamina but with gacha pulls as well. By the end of the beta, I had pretty much every character the game had to offer, SSR characters and everything, but it was a beta. Maybe they were too kind during this testing phase, so then the real progression would kick in once the full release came. Now this is still day one, so I might live to regret these words, but so far the game is just as generous. They did add a few characters, which means getting all of them is definitely going to be harder, and in the end, it's a gacha, so getting multiple of the same character is going to be required if you want to max them out. But the game has been giving me a ton of free stamina. I streamed the game for 6 hours on Twitch yesterday. 6 hours of non-stop stamina usage, and I've had to use one stamina refill item out of almost 20 that they gave me. Now I know how this works, I wasn't born yesterday, they're giving me all this free stuff at the beginning, so later, once I've committed enough time, they start reducing the amount of stuff they give. I know, I've been there before, but thanks for trying to warn me though. It shows that you care and I appreciate that. It's gonna be a while before I get to where I was in that beta, but I'm planning on taking it slow after today's video and enjoy the ride, focusing on what I love to do in this game, which is main story and quests. Let's talk about them both, starting with the main story, which is probably the reason why a lot of you are here. It goes through the main Fullmetal Alchemist story, fully voice acted and complete with some gorgeous looking cutscenes. These cutscenes, alongside the attack animations during gameplay, easily make this one of the best looking anime games out there. Not one of the best looking mobile games, I said anime games in general. It's super well optimized, look at this frame rate, this stuff is delicious. It's got some options in the menu so you can give it more or less detail depending on how powerful of a phone you have. The whole thing is just gorgeous to look at, and that makes it even more appealing to play. And you go through these story moments in sort of an abridged way that is just fantastic to relive your favorite moments from the anime. Is this a good story mode to experience Fullmetal Alchemist for the very first time? If you had to, I guess you would understand a lot of the story, but I don't think it's a great way. You'd be missing a lot of details, plus it's paced terribly because each story chapter is gated by your account level, so in between chapters there's a ton of grinding to do. But also, if you haven't watched Fullmetal Alchemist yet, get on that, buddy. Easily top 3 anime of all time. Put that at the top of your anime watch list. Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, that's all you need. And then there's also quests, my other favorite game mode, because this is, I believe, where the gameplay shines the most. Quick recap if you're just now learning about this game. This is a tile-based strategy game. So it's turn-based, but you also move around in tiles, kind of like a Fire Emblem if you ever played one of those. The quest mode places you in a battle scenario with preset characters, preset enemies, and a limited amount of turns. It starts as a tutorial teaching you different mechanics, but quickly evolves into a challenge of sorts, where you have to move perfectly in order to clear each level. It becomes more of a puzzle, because one wrong move, your character dies, and you fail the mission. When you're not playing quest mode, the gacha affects everything. The characters you bring into the game, their level, so you end up playing more of a numbers game, where you can just level up and clear everything without really having to think much about it. But in quests, you don't bring your characters into battle, they give you the characters, and sometimes they leave you at very low health, or they give enemies specific buffs that you have to play around, and it's this mode that really makes me believe that there's something at the end of the tunnel. Once I'm done with the story, once I'm done leveling up my favorite characters, they could very well make a very hard challenge where you gotta play perfect. perfect, just like you do in these quests, without being able to overpower enemies because you just overleveled yourself. But that's just speculation right now. If there's an endgame, I'm still very far away from it, and if there isn't, then I guess this is a game that you just play from start to finish. And that's okay too. Once you're done with the story, you're done with the game, although looking at the story chapters right now, the entire story isn't here yet. There are 2 chapters that are pending updates, and even when they release those, there's a lot more Fullmetal Alchemist to cover. So I think the plan is definitely to add it over time. That said, it's gonna take a very long time for me to reach that account level. Now, this isn't a perfect game, and I know it's not gonna be everyone's cup of tea, so here are a couple of things that I didn't like. For me, the game is carried by those 2 game modes that I talked about. The rest, I could definitely live without. Side missions, for instance. These are little side stories that could be interesting, but they didn't receive the treatment that the main story did. So these are not voice acted, which I thought was just gonna be a beta thing. Turns out they're not voice acted in the final game either. You don't have any of the high quality cutscenes, and the missions themselves do have a bit of variety, but they're not as inspired as the main story. On top of that, for every side mission you do, there are 2 side missions that are just completely unnecessary. They are filler within filler. Their purpose is simple. They needed more missions for you to grind all the different types of materials that this game requires. But ultimately, that just makes for some very boring content, and this is exactly why I usually don't like gachas. A gacha system always exists in place of what a better game could be. In what other genre is it acceptable to farm for 20 items in the same mission over and over again, and that mission isn't even guaranteed to drop the item you need? It's so boring that they let you skip the mission automatically, but of course that costs stamina, and that's how they gauge your progress. This is when the game says, "Stop, you're playing the game too much." There are a ton of little side modes, like an idle game mode where you can grind for battles so you can idle better. Every story mission unlocks something new. None of it feels very important right now, but who knows, maybe this is where all the endgame stuff will be. Boy, I hope not. This all exists because it's a gacha and it's how they work. If this stuff wasn't in here, you could beat the game in, let's say, 10 hours. And Square Enix definitely doesn't want you to do that. I don't think it would be that bad. 10 hours of a quality Fullmetal Alchemist game, sign me the hell up. But yeah, that wouldn't really make any money, so I understand. Doesn't mean I have to like it, but I don't want to talk about this anymore. It always makes me angry to talk about gacha systems, and the gacha community already hates me enough. And I do like this game a lot. It's a shame that it's in Japan only. There was a leaker that said it would come out globally, with no release date announced yet, but I personally cannot speak to the credibility of this leak. But even if it's true, with games like these, who knows how long it will be? It could be a month, it could be a year, and I don't know what I'm doing next week, let alone next year. So if you want to play it right now, you actually can, and it wasn't that hard to set up, honestly. You can find it on the App Store or Google Play with any VPN connected to Japan. If you don't have a VPN, I personally use Surfshark. I have a promo code that will give you 83% discount if you want to use it. I'll leave a link down below. This is not a sponsored video, but they do sponsor the channel once in a while. And you bet you're gonna get a full ad read later this month. You only need the VPN to download the app, you don't need it for playing the game. Now, for the biggest obstacle, Japanese. There's a cool thing called Google Lens. You download Google Lens, and anytime you need something translated, you take a screenshot, put that on Google Lens, and voila, the world is your oyster. Even better, if you want to play this on PC using BlueStacks, you can translate the text directly by just pressing Ctrl-Shift-L. This is how I played and captured all of this footage, and my god, it is so convenient. But at the end of the day, if this game has all the gacha stuff that I don't like from other games, why am I vibing with it so much? And I think the answer is very simple. They made a great game underneath the gacha. It doesn't feel like an inferior version of another game I played before, or a hyper simplified game, because ultimately the gameplay doesn't matter. What matters is getting people pulling and refilling stamina. No, it's a good grid-based strategy game with a ton of innovation, features unique to this game, and a lot of options when it comes to strategizing. It does take a while to get there. The game introduces systems very slowly. For instance, if your character attacks an enemy and you have an ally next to said enemy, that ally can come in for an attack, but only if they are both from the same background. If they're both officers or they both come from the village, and that's such a strong thing to have. It affects how you build teams, how you approach the enemy. It is a total game changer. But you only gain access to it once your characters reach level 40, and that takes a while. But it's one of many examples of what makes this game unique and why I'm loving it so much. And goddamn, does it make me want to watch Fullmetal Alchemist again. That's it for another episode of Globku vs. Mobile Games. I'm gonna keep playing this unless they announce a release date for global. If it's close, I might just wait for that. But if nothing happens, I'll bring you a review once I'm done with the story and deep into the end game, if there is an end game. But as always, thank you very much for watching. My name is Globku, and I'll see you next time. Bye!